again to another podcast from CX Consulting. Today we're going to chat a little bit about end users and that little infamous clicking on things that we're not supposed to be clicking on. By preventing us from clicking on the wrong stuff, then it will result, obviously, us being much safer. Today I've got the infamous Craig Pedersen from TCG Forensics. I have the privilege to have worked with Craig before. I think I can call him a friend.
Yes.
Craig, nice to have you here. Craig has got a vast amount of experience in digital forensics. He also quite recently launched the book, Think Before You Click. It's his second book that I'm aware of that he's launched. An absolute must read for every end user out there, even if you are a seasoned IT tech. Guys, even us IT techs get scammed. So I would definitely advise hop onto LinkedIn, Google search, contact TCG Forensics, get yourself a copy. It is a worthwhile read. So before I start continuing marketing the book, Craig, thanks for the commission I'll get of selling these books. But let's hop into it. Craig, I know that some people will think that, say, listen, I'm a seasoned IT guy. Why do I need to look at something like this? Why is it necessary for me to actually be that cautious? Because I have got things in place. I might be using Mimecast, or Microsoft is looking after my mailbox, so I should be good.
IT is such a broad area, and there's so many vast differentiations of skill. Now, when you and I were younger, IT wasn't even a choice at school. One or two guys might go into computers, and it was like, whatever. Over the last 20 or 30 years, it's become a very broad skill set, ranging from network ops, network security, administration, training, user-level interfaces, software development, specialized software development, and you've got the infrastructure guys. It's a really broad skill. I mean, if you just take something like networking, you've got about 20 different divisions within networking itself, from layering a simple office network through to building WANs and MPLS zones to balance the traffic and weight it throughout a number of different entities across the world. And then you've got the backbone of the internet that puts it all together, and fiber optic. You can go on forever. Each of us have our strengths and weaknesses, and we have our own particular focal areas. So the answer really is that it's impossible for everybody to focus everywhere all at the same time. Just because you're in IT doesn't mean you know all of the answers all the time. And what we do see a lot in cybercrime is that people are falling prey as victims from every walk of life. Retired people, work at home people, moms, dads, aspirant cryptocurrency traders, people that are actually pretty computer savvy, but are still falling for it. And if you're not falling for it, what about your parents? What about your grandparents? Or they may be falling prey to these scams. And the only way to prevent cybercrime as a whole and to impact it is you have to start from the bottom upwards and kill off their client base through educating people and showing them where are the causative factors, how do these scams work, how are they rolled out over a period of time, and more specifically, what do you have to do to prevent becoming a victim of those scams? Once you've got the insight into how one rolls into the other and the complexities of scams like pig butchery, then it becomes apparent, okay, wait, I need to know a little bit more here in order to protect myself, my family, my kids, my parents, grandparents, those around me, and to protect the network infrastructure that I work on in my day-to-day office environment. It could be that the threat vector doesn't come via you, but it's something you pick up and what a user's doing. And you can see that they're engaging in something that they shouldn't be, and you have the ability to terminate that and solidly show them where to stop. This is not what you thought it is. I know you're busy typing your resignation up, but you haven't actually won $182 in the Canadian lottery that you never entered.
So true. It's actually quite interesting that you mentioned it. This is if you look at some of the infamous hacks that recently has taken place, one is just going to look at something small like with the NVIDIA, the exfiltration that happened there. A guy, one of the engineers allegedly, through the cross-syncing of multiple platforms, and his account got compromised. So, I mean, a developer, one would think like a developer, they would be fairly safe enough, but it's those type of people that actually do get targeted, and it might not even be them. As you've rightfully mentioned, it might be via a father, a mother impersonating an account, and we see it quite often with AI. Mothers, fathers being sent messages of children needing money quickly. So it's something that's on a rise. But once again, as you've rightfully mentioned, that if we don't stop it at root level, how it's going to happen? I mean, if you look at statistic wise, how many entry points to a original breach came from social engineering, came from a phishing email? You clicked on something like that, or you clicked on opening a invoice. But at the end of the day, it was .pdf, .html, and it opens up, and you just see a blank page, and then you're like, okay, nothing happened here. Let me just email them and say, hey, sort this out.
We've seen this with business email compromise over and over again, with a person that realizes what's happened and that there's a loss that's taken place is actually highly computer savvy. They're very security aware. But the compromise didn't take place on their side. It took place on the other side of the transaction. And that's something they can't control. They got an email from that person instructing them to move money from A to B. They acted on the instruction. Why wouldn't they? How would they possibly know that somebody else has interjected into other parties' email address and their mail account and is actually sending it without their knowledge? So you can be as savvy as humanly possible here, but you can't block all of the angles. You'd also be perpetually paranoid if you were, because you can't have your head in a programming space and thinking code and giving equal attention to not being caught in a scam or cybercrime at the same time. One of the dynamics we see play out a lot in South Africa is that people become unwitting accomplices to cybercrimes. We see it in groups where what's known as the Docken scam is quite popular in South Africa right now, where people are offered work from home opportunities, and it's work from home, do admin, load up, put a bit of credit in your account. When your account gets to this value, you do absolute crap. It's a scam. Yeah. But the first couple of payments that they make can often be authentic. So that's engaging. He's doing some nonsense, clicking on adverts on an online platform that they're given to do. It's actually useless. It's got no effect. It's just a ruse. And he thinks, this is great. I'm making some money here. So he puts in his first payment request, says, well, I made $500 this week. And they pay him, and he gets $500. And so this is brilliant. Now I must go on. And he does. And now he's got 10,000 Rand, but he's got to make a payment of 1,000 Rand into that account before he can get the 10 out. And that's where they take him for 1,000 Rand. A lot of the guys pop onto different groups online and say, well, I'm used to these guys. I know it's a scam. So I go on, I let them pay me the first payment, and then I just walk away. I still make a few $100. So that's cute, but you realize that money's not coming from the scammer's account. It's coming from somebody who's just been scammed, has put that money into your account as their first payment. So you're not really being that clever because you are part of the problem. And you are laundering the proceeds of crime, and you're receiving the proceeds of crime, albeit nickel and dime money. But you can very easily get tangled into that web and get drawn into being an accomplice to cybercrime. without realizing it. And you can fall foul of a lot of anti-money laundering regulations. It's cavalier behavior and attitudes like that. Guys that go down to the taxi ranks and say, look, I'll lend you $500. No intention of ever getting it back, but you're going to open a bank account for me. I can't get one. Yeah, okay, what do I do? Come with me, do this, do that, open the account, there's your 500 Rand, I'll look after the account. Now I've got a mule account waiting to receive money in from any number of scams. And people don't realize that eventually when the investigative trail unravels, somebody's going to knock on your door and say, wait a minute, you're the featured owner of that bank account and you received 150,000 Rand of stolen money in a scam. We're holding you responsible. And as financially as illiterate as many of these people are, that is the law. They've facilitated money laundering. So there are different aspects. You can be a victim, you can lose money. You can be a victim by engaging and perpetuating crime. And you can be an asshole by just letting the system work and trying to benefit from it and actually complicating the problem. And you shouldn't be doing that. You just walk away and say, okay, that's a scam, no thanks, block, click, report, move on. Just because other people are pinching people's wallets, swapping bank cards, doesn't mean everybody should join in and engage with that. So the problem itself is much broader than just the victim of the crime.
It's actually interesting that you mention it, Craig, because it actually makes me realize how innocently you are actually contributing towards the crime mindset, if I can put it that way, because at the end of the day, if you steal 1 Rand or if you steal R1 million, you've still stolen. You've still broken the law, according to the South African laws that's out there. And that's something that people actually need to look at. And if we want to make a positive change in the South African environment, I mean, South Africa is rife. I think it's a cybercrime haven at this stage. And although SAPS and the Hawks are making some breakthroughs, I mean, they are also limited to the amount of resources that they have got. And there's a lot of other things like the judicial system that one needs to look at to look at the effectiveness of the work that they do. But from a ground point of view, if us as end users go and contribute and say, hey, you know what, I'm not even going to say, yeah, the economy is tight, I need 1,000 Rand or 2,000 Rand, that's a quick buck, that's fine. Stop. Rather report, block, because at the end of the day, that's also a trend that has been seen where even from a ransomware point of view, this is where some large organizations simply don't pay the ransom. Yep. So if you cut that revenue flow from the threat actors, where else are they going to get money from? Because that's the end of the day what they do. So if they're not going to get ransom from the company, they're going to then sell the credentials to someone else, who possibly, or they'll go to the end users and they will try and extort some money from them. Say, hey, you know what, we've got stuff out here. You can then start engaging in extortion issues, etc., etc. But from your experience, what would you see as a general trend of scams? Besides, I mean, I've get a lot of you can work for Amazon, you get paid like $50 or something like that.
Yeah, so the different trends that emerge in South Africa, the one that's really prevalent at the moment is obviously the work from home. Yeah. Everybody's looking for a side hustle. It's post-Christmas. January is the longest 10 months of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's looking for a bit of extra income. So they hone in on the work from home environment. There's so much hype in the media around the ability to work from home, telecommute, etc., that people just bluntly walk into it thinking, well, wow, this is everybody's doing this, I want to get in. Again, if it's too good to be true, it definitely is. The second one is loan scams. Loan scams are really prevalent in South Africa. Now, you and I might think, well, that's obvious. If you apply for a loan, it means you need money. Why would you possibly pay to apply for money? But it works and it's highly effective. And every day people get these emails inviting them to apply for short-term credit, a 1-year loan, a 2-year loan, at ridiculous, really stupid interest rates, 3% kind of thing. And that's the carrot to lure them in. And the application goes in, and people send in their bank statements, their ID documents, because it's a loan application. End of the day, the guy says, money's approved, it's going to be in your account in 48 hours, you've got to pay a $5,000 processing fee. I don't have $5,000, otherwise I wouldn't be borrowing it. Can't you just take it? Doesn't work like that. If you don't pay the processing fee, thanks very much, it's been fun. Now that person's gone on an emotional roller coaster where they've been financially desperate through to finding salvation, hoping it's going to get approved. It gets approved, and now they're stuck. And they're going to go back to zero again and start the cycle over, and they're not willing to do that. So they beg, borrow, steal, they get the money, they put the money in. The minute the money's in, look, that's great, but now there's a problem with this or authenticating that document. We'll sort it for you. And those loan scams can run up to some pretty serious values. Those are all over South Africa. They're littered with these idiots that make a fortune from it. It's low-value scams, typically. They go for 5,000, 10,000 rand, but we've seen them go to millions as well, where they've convinced people over time to consolidate their home loan, consolidate their car loan. The guy applies for a loan for 20 grand, 50 grand. And then they come back to him and say, look, we've looked through your financials, but the loan value is too small for us. Thanks anyway. Now, what do you mean? So, well, if you owe 300 grand in your car, if you were going to include the car and put everything in one loan, we could do that. I can do this? Yeah. Pull it in, I'll settle my car as well. Well, then why don't you go large and do your bond too? Now you're suddenly borrowing 2 million rand instead of 20,000. And of course, it's logical that they want a 10,000 or 20,000 rand admin fee to go with that. Except it's not logical. You never ever pay for a loan. You never pay for a loan. You never pay for a job. Yeah, it's just that simple. But people get caught in the psychology of it, and they get drawn in through desperation. And these guys have no scruples. They have no morals. They manipulate that desperation to their own advantage. And that's how a lot of them get through with it. Last really big upswing that we've seen is since the Experian data breach, where millions of South Africans' personal details were lost. ID numbers, home addresses, in some cases, not many, but in some banking account details, etc. If you've got that information in front of you, that breach list, it's actually quite easy to filter pensioners and to filter out calls recorded for quality control and security purposes. Please may I confirm your ID number? My records show your ID number starts 69010152. Please will you finish the last 4 digits? Now you're already padding wait for what? Mr. Van der Walt, nothing to be worried about. There has been an attempt to process a transaction on your credit card for 52,000 rand at Hi-Fi Corporation. Is that your transaction? Don't know what you're talking about. No problem, Mr. Van der Walt. I'm going to log a request. We saw it was out of pattern. I'm going to log a request for you with the fraud unit, and we're going to stop that transaction. Mr. Van der Walt, for your security, I'm going to send you a PIN number to confirm this transaction. Please will you read it back? You've just read back an SMS, a confirmation OTP that confirms the TV I'm about to buy and have delivered to my mate. But because they make it sound so convincing, and you can hear the hum of the call center in the background. We speak to countless victims, but there was a call center. Yes, there was a call center, but they're all fun scamming people. It's not a real call center, it's a scam call center. And these guys set up really quickly. So those are the trends that we're seeing. And it's aggravated in South Africa by the fact that cybercrime is 100% scalable. It's a crime of scale. If your criminal passion is breaking into businesses, stealing their computers because you've got a market to sell second hands, that's really cute, but you can only physically break into so many businesses on any given night. With cybercrime, if you're going to scam one person, you may as well scam 20 or 30. If you're going to put up one fake advert for a cheap cell phone, well, why wouldn't you just copy paste and do 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 and increase the reach and the number of victims you can get to? If you're going to send one person an email saying they've inherited $11 million, you may as well send it to 1 million people. You only need 0.5% engagement rate to make it worthwhile. So the scalability of cybercrime, along with the simplicity of it and low value numbers, really becomes an issue. When you look at loan scams, the banking call center type scams, and entry-level cyber crimes, most people turn around and say, well, I lost 3,000 or 4,000 rand. What are the police going to do? They haven't got the time for this. Chalk it up, school of hard knocks, move along. But when the scammer's doing 1,000 of those a week, that's 3 million rand a week.
Good money.
And it's going unreported, and the money doesn't stay there. It's not like the scammers are set to earn 20,000 rand a month. And when they earn 20,000 rand a month, they pay a portion to electricity, a portion to rent, a portion to school fees, and then they've got a credit card they've got to pay, and their budget a bit daft. They're thieves. They might be polite white-collar thieves, but they are thieves. Doesn't change. So they go large. And that money is going to be used for wine, women, song, and anything and everything else they can, and to grow the scale of their criminal enterprise. One guy on his own, maybe he makes 40 or 50,000 rand scamming people over a platform like Gumtree. But now he's got 40 or 50 grand a month coming in regularly. Why wouldn't he just hook up a buddy, get another laptop, and they'll both do the same thing at the same time under his direction, and he'll take a cut. And if he's going to have one person sitting in the house working with him, he may as well have 7 or 8. And it's not like if he fires them, they're going to go to the CCMA and complain. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
So the money that's stolen from victims trickles back into the criminal economy, and you end up with a criminal economy that becomes as big as the formal economy potentially, where you start to add all the numbers from the different types of crimes.
It is true that you actually make mention of that, because if you look at how many people actually go and just say, I'm taking the knock, because now they're going to think like, if I go to the police station, they're going to laugh at me, I'm this and this and this person. I mean, come on, buddy, it's like you should have known better. I've lost 2,000 rand, but somewhere along the line, we need to draw that line and say, listen, we're going to report it. And obviously, I am maybe of the naive implication or opinion that if more and more of these crimes are going to be reported, hopefully we'll get to a state where more resources will be allocated to the cyber crime units to say, hey, you know what, there's an incline of that or increase of that, so we need to address that. How do we need to address it? So we need to shift some of the money somewhere to go into that direction. So obviously making law enforcement more effective. And if they become more effective, I mean, you've rightly said, I mean, if my chances of getting caught is now becoming bigger from scamming every Tom, Dick, and Harry on Gumtree, I'm going to think twice before entering into that game.
It's very true. A lot of people are very surprised. They will sit in interviews like today and say, how good are the police really? And they're fully baiting and anticipating that SAPS is useless. That's not true. SAPS has actually got some really top-notch skills, some really good, dedicated people. The problem is with the sum. We don't have enough of them. Okay, so why don't we get more? Well, good cyber investigators don't grow on trees. They take years to nurture, grow, and teach them. It's very technically complex crime. And it's a very technical industry, it takes ages to teach people the nuances and the trends and the legal aspects of how to prepare those documents for court and to get evidence and so on. So there isn't exactly a plentiful amount of those skills. We still struggle in the private sector where there just aren't enough skills. While we still have that situation and people underreported, national police are going to look and say, but there isn't a problem. We have our hands full with contact crime. People must just stop doing this thing. You know, it's very easy to say that, but then surely by the same token, if I decide that I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to go through a stroll through the middle of Site B in Khayelitsha at midnight on Friday night, that might not be a great idea. Then I was thinking, you know, I'll go for early morning 5K run through Browns Farm in Philippines. That is equally not going to work very well for me. But doesn't mean if something happens to me and I do it anyway, I don't have the right to report it as a crime. And it comes down to the whole, did they ask for it thing? Now that debate has been done to death in terms of rape and rape charges. Oh, she was wearing a short skirt kind of nonsense. And, oh, maybe she was flirtatious. We've done that argument to death. The victim doesn't ask to be a victim. So surely to hell the same thing applies in cyber. You might have been naive by thinking you won a lottery you never entered. You might have been naive thinking that Elon Musk is actually emailing you personally to invest in his next project because, like, I don't know, maybe shy a couple of bucks. So there's an element of naivety to it. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. That doesn't mean it's a crime. That doesn't mean it's not a crime. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be investigated anyway. What it does mean is you have to start an education at the bottom because people are still naive. People are still desperate. I know plenty of people who have fallen for scams. They're the furthest thing from naive, but there's a point of desperation to it. They're inches away from retirement and realize, wait a minute, what I've got for retirement is more than much, less than others, but it's not going to be enough for me. If I've got an opportunity to earn 20% on that, I want it. And they forget that there's a reason nobody's offering 20 points of that kind of money, because there's risk and it could be a scam. Every day, every single day, we have people that have fallen prey to crypto scams. I invested in this crypto or this exchange or this broker. Like, just stop it. Just stop it. You know, if you want to invest money, go find a farmer. We live in South Africa. Go find a farmer. Prepay a value of his crop, and you know you can haggle something there. That would be realistic. Oh, but you won't do that because you don't know anything about farming. So what the hell are you doing with cryptos? Sure. If you do not understand cryptography, never mind the coins, just cryptography, you should stay the hell away from cryptocurrencies. And if you really want to make the kind of returns that you can on cryptocurrencies without putting in the years of learning first, Grand West is that way, Empress Palace as well. Red or black, take your pick. You've got the same marks.
Yeah, sure.
One of the favorites of people is like, I keep my money on an unregulated exchange. I was like, okay, that's a good thing. Yes, nobody can see it. It's private. It's okay. Tell you what, I'm going to run an unregulated bank. It's called the Bank of Craig. Give me your salary. I'll hold it for you every month and give it back as you need it. Never mind all the big banks. I'm an unregulated bank. Give it to me. Well, that's not going to work very well. Nobody in their right mind would do that. But they take millions, put it into crypto assets, and then put it in an unregulated exchange, which means outside of South Africa, there's no regulation. You've got no legal recourse if the money just disappears. Muppet. But people get talked into these things every day. Once you understand the psychology of how the different scams work, from cryptos all the way through to cheap cell phones and puppy dogs and cats online, there's something that clicks in your head. And you will not be taken by it again, and you will see if somebody's trying to do it to somebody else. Uh, that was the whole impetus behind the book, is to kind of lift that curtain, show people what goes on and what we've learned from victims and from suspects that we've caught and worked with over the years, and make them a little bit worldly wise as to this is what's going on behind the scenes. Because once you have that knowledge, you're not going to be caught again.
That's true, Craig. I think it is a nice way. Unfortunately, some of us have to learn out of other people's mistakes. But if we start educating people and to say when to click, what to look for, what not to look for, looking at some open source resources that one can go and do a little bit of due diligence. It doesn't have to take you days or years. Just a little bit of research, just a little bit of checking and say, listen, these reviews that these people are getting, are they legit? Is it not some bot that's actually been trying, or Michael and his 50 buddies, that's all scammers, that now just saying, no, this guy's good, and you're like, oh, they're all getting good reviews. No, actually not. They're all one. So I think having that information and revealing it, and it's really, guys, it's a nice book. I've recently obtained a copy, and I've quickly skimmed through it, and I love the way that, Craig, that you put it in a way that you're not addressing it in a nerdy way. You're actually talking plain English that every person can understand.
It was very important to me to not dumb it down, but to explain it in simple terms that people can follow. For me to churn out something of a technical nature, explaining the technical nuances of IP tracking and all the various components of different cybercrimes, well, that's easy. I do it every day. But that's for peers. Getting it into a form that the average person can understand and follow along with, using a couple of sanitized case studies to be indicative of how these scams roll one into the next, and to build that awareness for mom, pop, granny, and grandpa too, and our kids. That was more important to me, to make sure that it's readable, digestible, and that it makes sense. The quicker we can get our children to think in terms of basic common sense as we know it in the cyber environment, and not to believe everything that's online. Just because it's online doesn't mean it's true. The online is free for all. It's not a library. There's no curator. We'd love to think that Google and Bing are the curators of the internet. They're sanitized, but it's not. Everybody hates Facebook fact checkers, but imagine the debauchery that carried on before they were there. They can be a bit of a nanny and a pain in the ass, but they serve a purpose. If Facebook, things like Facebook fact checker and their moral standards module weren't in play, internet's not going to be Facebook would not be a safe place to let your children near it. We've all grown up with Facebook, so we're kind of used to the fact that before they started that, it was quite normal to be scrolling through Facebook and sitting in a meeting and you're whiling away, and suddenly you get the melodic tones of, because some idiot has gone and loaded this, audio overdue to a random cartoon cat. You can cause a lot of havoc and have a lot of fun on the internet. You've just got to remember it's not always true. If you want stuff that's curated, go to a physical old school library. That's where you're going to find it. Go to a university. That's where you're going to find it. Universities have not been replaced by Google. Never will be. There's a reason for it. Is AI going to take over the jobs of attorneys? Never. No. Things like AI can be used to augment our work, to flesh it out a little bit, to sharpen research, do things a little bit quicker. It's gimmicky in many respects, but it has potential. And I mean, it's like the new trend of AI, and people go to invest in things that have this attached to it. But those who've been in business for years sit there and think, wow, machine learning. totally new concept. Never thought of that. I mean, it's machine learning. It's been around since the day dot, for God's sake, predictive. AI and the AI chatbots are just a little bit smoother than the likes of Google search engine. But again, you've seen with the OSINT stuff, most people don't actually know how to use Google.
Yeah.
They just go sit at Google and say, who was president from this year to that year? They don't know how to structure the queries. And Google's supposed to be kind of user-friendly that way anyway. It makes it easy and accessible for everybody. Not everybody needs to be able to do Boolean queries to use a search engine. So the same thing with when it comes to the book is it's not about dumbing it down, it's just presenting it in a form that's easy enough for people to read, digest, and take away their own individual takeaways. When you look at the fact that in South Africa, the smallest entry point cybercrime is going to mean you're going to lose between 1 and 5,000 rand, and it can go up to millions on property transactions, invoice deception, etc. Buying a book for a couple of bucks and spending a couple of hours, it's not a voluminous sort of tome, and each chapter ends with a bit of top 10 tips, kind of how to avoid falling for that particular scam. If you spend a couple of hours reading and it saves you being a victim once, then it's done its job, because not only has it saved you $1,000, okay, it's taken $1,000 away from the scammer who would redeploy that money back into more crime. And so you're depleting the abilities of cyber criminals while educating people at the same time and saving them their hard-earned money. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, and hopefully, the book's managed to achieve that.
No, definitely. Craig, thanks very much for your time, and also thanks very much for investing the time into having such a wonderful product out there in the market. I know it's not easy. It takes a lot of time away from family, work, and everything else. Needless to say that there's also some loss of hair, but just educating the people out there, the readers out there. Guys, it's not because I know Craig personally. This is an awesome book. This is a tool that everyone in South Africa actually need. If we can educate every person out there, you're going to deplete the cybercrime market, if I can put it that way, that is available there, the platform, because if there is no financial gain, no one's going to enter into that. You're going to save a lot of problems, a lot of headaches, and also for the elderly, and for them to all of a sudden, you've worked all your life, now your life savings gone. Who's going to look after them? That is a sad thing. So guys, if not for nothing else, get yourself this book. Think before you click. In the video at the link, we will provide the links and some more information on how to obtain a copy like this. Definitely, it's worthwhile. Buy it for your father, your mother, for your sister, or whoever, even for yourself. It's good reading. It's value for money. Craig, thanks so much once again for your time and your efforts, and I'm sure you've planted a good seed, and there will be lots and lots of fruits.
Thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
All right, good chat. Sure.